Okay. We are here with another amazing masterclass, okay? So y'all know I am all about um talking about ways that we can actually start making money in our crochet business without relying on handmade sales. And the reason why I always talk about ways that we can make money in our crochet business without relying on handmade sales is because there's going to come a point in time that handmade sales may slow down. You need to find other ways that you can continue to just grow and continue to have a stream of income. So tonight we're talking about creating and selling your own workshop. So how do we turn our knowledge into a paid offer? Okay. So once again, like I said, tonight we're going to talk about something that can completely change your crochet business. And the reason why I say completely change your crochet business is because most crocheters focus on selling products. And we spend our time we maybe making hats, blankets, plushies, wearables, and custom orders. But there's another income stream that is available, your knowledge. And let me say that again. The other income stream that is available to you is your knowledge. What you know has value. What you've learned through trial and error has value. The mistakes you've made has value. The shortcuts you've discovered have value. So tonight, I'm going to show you how to take what you already know and turn it into a workshop that people will gladly pay to attend. And by the end of this class, I want every single one of you to leave with the workshop idea, a basic outline, and a plan to move forward. So, first things first, you are more qualified than you think. Let me say that again. You are more qualified than you think. So, I want to start off with a question. How many of you have ever heard the thought, I'm not an expert enough? Nobody would pay me to learn anything, right? Or I still have so much to learn myself. And if that's you, that you're not alone. And first of all, let me slow down because I'm stuttering because I'm excited. But I know for me, there was plenty of times that I knew that I had something of value that I wanted to share and I wanted to bring to other people that I knew can utilize my expertise and my knowledge. But I always had some doubt. Maybe I needed to learn a little bit more. Maybe I needed to get a certification. Maybe I needed to do something to make me worthy enough for people to say, okay, what she's saying is actually accurate. But here's what I really want you to understand, that you don't have to know everything to teach something. You only need to know more than the person that you're helping, okay? So think about it. Can you make a granny square? Can you read a pattern? Can you price a crochet item? Can you sell at craft fairs? Can you make amigurumi? Can you teach someone how to hold a hook? And if you can answer yes to any of those questions, then you already have the knowledge that someone else's need. Okay, so here's a quick activity. I want you to grab a piece of paper and I want you to write down the answers to these questions. What crochet questions do people ask me all the time? What do people compliment me on? What crochet skills come naturally to me that once felt difficult? So I want you to take about 3 minutes and I want you to write down as many answers as possible. And I'm going to also put it in the chat, okay? So, like I said, grab a piece of paper and I want you to write down the answers to these questions, okay? What crochet questions do people ask me all the time? What do people compliment me on? And what crochet skill comes naturally to me now that once felt very difficult? Okay? And they are in the chat. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how to find your workshop idea. So now let's figure out, what could you actually teach? Now, one mistake people make is thinking their workshop, it has to be this huge thing, and it really doesn't. In fact, the best workshops solve one specific problem, not 10, not 20, just one. And your workshop doesn't need to teach everything about crochet. It needs to help someone achieve one clear result. So what I'm saying is, your workshop shouldn't talk about 10 different things. It should just focus on one clear result. So some types, we can talk about some types of workshops, right? So most crochet workshops fall into one of four categories. A skill workshop, which is basically teaching a specific skill. So for example, maybe you're teaching people how to make granny squares, how to create amigurumi basic projects, maybe Tunisian crochet. You may be even teaching someone how to change colors when they're crocheting. Okay. Then you have the other category of project workshops. What are project workshops? Creating a finished item. So some examples of those may be crocheting a market bag, making your first plushie, creating a baby blanket, maybe even making a sweater. Okay. Then the next category you have is business workshops. So business workshops are teaching crochet business skills. So for example, maybe you're teaching how to price handmade items. Maybe you're teaching how to sell at craft fairs. Maybe you're teaching social media tactics specifically for crocheters, right? And then last but not least, you have problem solving workshops. So, what are problem solving workshops? Workshops where you're helping people overcome something that is frustrating to them. So, let's say, for example, you're teaching people how to read crochet patterns. Maybe you're teaching them how to fix common mistakes when they're learning how to do different types of stitches or making certain projects. Maybe you're also teaching people how to understand gauges. Okay. So here's the next activity. I want you to list 10 things you know how to do, 10 questions people ask you, 10 mistakes beginners make. And then once you do that, I want you to circle the ideas that keep showing up. So let me repeat that again. So the activity is for you to list 10 things you know how to do, 10 questions people ask you, and 10 mistakes beginners make. And then after you make that list, I want you to circle the ideas that keep showing up. And once again, I'll put the activity into the chat for you to be able to copy, okay? So I'll give you a few minutes to complete that, and then we will keep on going, okay? Super excited about this opportunity. Okay, so now let's talk about building your workshop. And we'll hold all questions or anything like that towards the end. We'll do Q&A. If you need some type of support, I can be able to support you with what that looks like, okay? So building your workshop. So here's where people overcomplicate things, okay? So workshop is, I'm excited. Sorry. So let me slow down. Here is where people overcomplicate things, and that's the part of building your workshop. So, a workshop is a simple journey. So, someone starts one place and then they leave another place, and your job is to guide them. So, let me say that again. You have someone that's starting at one place, and after taking your workshop, they leave in another place, and your job is to guide them through the journey. Okay? So, one quick workshop formula can be the current problem, teaching, and then what's the transformation? Okay. So, they have the problem, you're teaching them, and then now the transformation shows up. So, let me give you a prime example. People don't understand crochet patterns. Now, you know that is a big thing. People don't understand crochet patterns. So you teach them pattern abbreviations. Maybe you teach them about symbols, and maybe you teach them about like how to read like the little techniques of a pattern. And then once they learn these things from you, now they get a chance to leave knowing how to confidently follow a pattern. Guess what? That's a workshop. Yes, that's simple. Okay? So let me say that one more time. A workshop is simple. It doesn't need to be 10, 20, 30 different things. It needs to focus on one problem. So, the example that I gave, as you know, many people don't know how to read crochet patterns. I know it took me a long time to read a crochet pattern. Many people have been crocheting for many, many years and they still don't know how to read a crochet pattern. So, the common problem is that people don't understand crochet patterns. And then what it looks like is my workshop will maybe teach them how to read the pattern abbreviations, maybe teach them what the symbols look like. And then also, maybe I'm teaching and implementing some type of reading techniques. That's simple. Now, once I teach them these things, now they're leaving my workshop knowing how confidently follow a pattern. That is a workshop. That simple. So here's another exercise that I want you to complete. Okay. So now we're going to actually start outlining um, a workshop, maybe something that you thought about, maybe that, remember that list that I asked you to actually highlight. Let's take a look at that. So I want you to name your workshop. Who is it for? What problem do they have? What result will they get? And what three things will you teach them? Now, I want you to spend a few minutes filling this out. It don't have to be perfect, and the goal is progress, not perfection. We can always go back over this again. So let me say this one more time. The exercise is for you to create a workshop title. Who is it for? What problems do they have? What results will they get? And what three things will you teach? Okay, and I will put this in the chat as well. And so this won't be long. I'm gonna pause in between so that the replay is not long. Okay, so let's move right along. Okay, so the next thing is selling a workshop without feeling salesy. So I hear it all the time. I don't like selling. The truth is that most people they don't even dislike selling. They dislike being pushy, right? So those are two different things. Selling is simple, helping someone solve a problem. But if your workshop generally helps people, talking about it is a service. So let me say that again because I confuse my own self saying that, right? So basically, what I'm saying is, how do you sell your workshop without feeling salesy? So, like I said, I hear this all the time. I don't like selling. But the truth is, most people don't dislike selling. They dislike feeling like they're being pushed, okay? Or they dislike feeling like the one that's being pushy to someone else, trying to persuade or convince them of something. And those are two different things. Selling is simply helping someone solve a problem. So if your workshop genuinely helps people, talking about it is a service, okay? So just like you landed into my course, Hooked on Profit Community, there was a problem that you had that I was selling, and I shared it with you, and that's what had you join. Okay. I was passionate about what I was talking about. How can you actually generate multiple streams of income without relying on handmade items? And there are a lot of crocheters out there that's what they're looking for. And I solved the problem. And now that is how you all became a part of my community. Okay. So I want you to start shifting your thinking. You're not selling a workshop, you're selling confidence, you're selling clarity, you're selling a shortcut, you're selling a result. Okay. So, for example, instead of saying join my crochet workshop, how about you say struggling to read crochet patterns? I'll show you how to understand them step by step so you can confidently complete projects on your own. So do you hear a difference? And one, yes, I'm using the previous example. We're going to just, for the rest of this conversation, we're going to use that example of teaching people how to read crochet patterns because that's a big one. Okay. So instead of me just saying, hey, join my crochet workshop, I'm actually going to say to someone, are you struggling to read crochet patterns? Well, look, I'll show you how to understand them step by step so you can confidently complete pattern projects on your own. So do you hear the difference? One talks about the workshop and the other one talks about the outcome. So of course, you know, I have another activity for you. So I want you to complete this sentence. My workshop helps blank go from blank to blank. Take a few minutes to write yours and I will put it in the chat. And once again, I will pause this so that the replay is not too long. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about is becoming the actual teacher. So this is the part I really want you to remember. You're not limited to being a maker. You can become a teacher. A maker sells products. A teacher sells transformation. A teacher can host workshops. A teacher can create courses. A teacher can build memberships. A teacher can coach. A teacher can create recurring income. Your experience has value. Your journey has value. The things you've learned have value. And there are people waiting for someone just like you to teach them. Okay? Literally. So, here's a challenge that I want you to actually work on after this conversation. Okay? So, before the next 7 days are over, I want you to complete the following: choose one workshop idea, create a title, identify who it's for, write down the problem it solves, outline 3 things you'll teach, choose a price, choose a launch date. Then make a social media post asking your audience if they're interested. Not after everything is perfect, and not after you've built the website, and not after you've created a logo. I want you to do that this week because the fastest way to know if people want your workshop is to ask them. So I want to leave you with one question. If your workshop sold out completely 30 days from now, what would you be teaching? And I want you to write down your answer because that answer could become your next income stream.